In late March 2024, the quiet town of Hugoton, Kansas, was shaken by an unsettling occurrence. Two mothers, Veronica Butler and Jillian Kelly, disappeared under perplexing circumstances. What began as an ordinary trip ended with their car abandoned on a road in the middle of nowhere, leaving a trail of unanswered questions. With scant clues but growing suspicions, authorities initiated an investigation that crossed state boundaries. As the case of the missing women turned into a suspected foul play, arrests were made, including someone with a personal connection to one of the victims. Who was this individual, and what was their motive? Were they acting alone, or were there other accomplices? And how did the case reveal an even darker reality than anyone could have anticipated? Born in Oklahoma in 1996, 27-year-old Veronica Butler spent most of her childhood years in Guyman. She had graduated from Yarborough High School in 2015, the school that was suspiciously close to the location where her abandoned car would eventually be found. In addition to her job as a nursing assistant, Veronica volunteered at a nearby scale house. Veronica was engaged to Tracy Peets, who was a Marine and had two adorable kids from an earlier relationship. 39 years old Jillian Kelly moved to Hugoton, Kansas, along with her husband Heath Kelly, a local minister, after leaving her hometown of Gering, Nebraska. In November 2023, Heath was named as the next minister of Willow Christian Church in Indianola, Nebraska, though was yet to start working there. Jillian was actively involved in the church activities and its religious community while working as the secretary of the Hugoton First Christian Church. She balanced her professional obligations with a demanding family life, being a mother of 4. Jillian was well known for her kind demeanor and her allegiance to the church. People looked up to her for support. She was always willing to help those in need and served as an example to those around her. Among those people to whom she would offer assistance was Veronica Butler. It might be said that Veronica and Jillian were more acquaintances than close friends. Being members of the same church, the First Christian Church in Hugoton, brought them together and influenced each other's lives. Jillian was one of the supervisors assigned by the court to watch over Veronica's visitations with her kids, even though they were not very close. At the time, Veronica's kids were residing in Eva, Oklahoma, with a grandparent. On March 30, 2024, Veronica Butler and Jillian Kelly embarked on what was meant to be a routine trip from Hugoton, Kansas to Eva. They were headed there so that Veronica could pick up her 2 kids. They were scheduled to be at the 6th birthday celebration of her daughter. Being a dedicated mother, Veronica was used to frequently making that 45-minute drive. Like every other day, it started with both women getting ready for the trip. As they had done many times before, they set off early with the intention of returning the same day. Although this time, the 2 mothers had no idea that their routine excursion would take an unexpected and fatal turn. As the evening approached, and neither of the women had reached their intended location or arrived back home, friends and family members became concerned. This resulted in a search that quickly escalated into a full-scale investigation by the Oklahoma State Bureau of Investigation, or OSBI. The 2 women were reportedly last seen as they left Hugoton. Veronica and Jillian's phone records showed that their cell phones were actively transmitting signals until around 9:42 a.m. After that, the networks were unable to detect anything, and the signals ceased. Later that day, their car was discovered deserted on a gravel lane 1,000 feet from the Oklahoma State Highway 95 and Road L. This is located south of Elkhart, Kansas, which isn't far from Yarborough School where Veronica used to go to before graduation. The school was forced to close on Monday, April 1st, out of caution, and opened up again on Tuesday, however, stayed under surveillance. Given the uncertain nature of the missing persons case, the school administration stated that Butler was a student of the 2015 class, which was a class of 1, implying that she graduated as an only senior. The superintendent commented, "I joked about her being the top of her class and the bottom as well." The location was secluded, with open space and not much activity. The abandoned car caught people's attention. Inside it was a disturbing sight. Some amount of blood was discovered, indicating violence. Outside, there were multiple separate splashes of blood. Whatever transpired, it took place both inside and outside of the vehicle. The car's doors were left open, suggesting that those inside had either left hurriedly or were compelled to do so by force. Veronica's glasses were also discovered by the road, alongside a broken hammer. A pistol magazine was discovered in Jillian's purse at the location, but there was no pistol anywhere nearby. No eyewitness or obvious clue, just the isolated large surrounding space. This quietness only intensified the concerns regarding Veronica and Jillian's possible fate. Authorities, who believed the disappearance to be suspicious from the start, stepped up with their investigation. Search teams scoured through the fields and woods. Detectives searched the region, looking for any clues that might shed light on the woman's last known activities. As the days passed with no indication of Veronica or Jillian, the local towns where the women had driven from began to protest. Prayer services withheld by the Willow Christian Church and the Hugoton Assembly of God united the locals with hope. Social media pages and community forums were flooded with requests for any details about the case. Willow Christian Church made a post on Facebook. Please pray that Jillian and her friend Veronica are safe and that they are found quickly. God, please bring these women home to their families who are so worried about them. Behind the scenes, the police worked relentlessly to piece together the woman's last known whereabouts. They investigated both personal as well as professional affiliations and looked into all of the provided tips. The absence of conclusive evidence or a tangible lead in the case exacerbated the despair and dread that seized all those involved. Travis Woodworth, an acquaintance, stated that not knowing anything, not knowing whether they were still in Kansas, Oklahoma, or someplace else where they might have been at, made my heart drop, as if it had been a terribly heartbreaking week, a lot of nights without sleep. Another acquaintance remarked that nothing like that had ever happened around here, so it came as a shock. Hunter McKee, an OSBI representative, highlighted the alarming nature of the case. He cited the remoteness of the location where the car was parked, along with an absolute lack of contact from the women, as the main reasons behind their suspicions regarding the possibility of foul play. He went on to say that the cameras and CCTV recordings are typically used to determine what happened or what led up to it. Unexpectedly, in a dramatic turn of events, on April 13, 2024, 4 people were arrested in connection with Veronica and Jillian's disappearance and subsequent passing. 54-year-old Tad Burt Cullum, 50-year-old Tiffany Michelle Adams, 44-year-old Cole Earl Twombly, and 43-year-old Cora Twombly. A 5th suspect, Paul Grice, eventually was apprehended as well. Although they had yet to locate their bodies, the evidence recovered from the scene was crucial to proving that foul play was involved and contributed to the immediate arrests of the individuals responsible. According to Hunter McKee, the evidence taken from the inside and around that abandoned vehicle was what led them to these conclusions. Nevertheless, they refused to disclose yet what was in and around the vehicle. Following their arrest, as the suspects made their way into the courtroom for the very first time, the victims' loved ones had to be restrained from making a move on them. 4 of them were charged with 2 counts of abduction, 2 counts of taking life, and conspiracy for taking the life of Veronica and Jillian. They were detained within the Texas County Prison. On April 14th, a day after their detainment, in an isolated region of Texas County, Oklahoma, the prolonged search for the 2 missing women concluded with a horrifying revelation. Authorities comprising the OSBI, FBI, and Texas County Sheriff's Department announced the discovery of 2 bodies. Those bodies were then brought to the Oklahoma Chief Medical Examiner's office for further examination and autopsy. Officials confirmed that all of the youngsters involved are safe. the children's whereabouts around the time of the killings remain uncertain. The investigation into Veronica and Jillian's disappearance brought officials to a rural property barely 10 miles from where they were reported to be last sighted. There, detectives found evidence that tied the suspects to this place, which made it the focus of their attention. According to court filings, 2 burner phones belonging to the 4 accused exchanged signals close to a recently damaged patch of land on the property. A hole appeared to have been dug, then refilled and carefully disguised with hay. Jamie Beasley, the property owner, presented the detectives with unsettling details. He described his conversations with Tad Burt Cullum, one of the accused. Cullum reportedly asked him if he could use a skid steer to do what he seemingly suggested was dirt work to bury concrete. 2 days prior to Veronica and Jillian's disappearance, Cullum had made contact with Jamie Beasley, the owner of the property. Only this time he requested if he could use some heavy machinery to take out a stump and engage in other excavating work. After the woman's disappearance, Cullum, facing the weight of the investigation, alerted Jamie that the police believed that he was a suspect. He added that the skid steer marks would appear fishy to them. Cullum instructed Jamie to just state that the suspect was performing general land maintenance if confronted. As the investigation progressed, officers began to piece together not just how and who committed the crime, but also how they unearthed the truth that shocked the entire community. Unexpectedly, one of the suspects had a close relationship with Veronica Butler. Tiffany Adams turned out to be Veronica's mother-in-law, which makes her a relative by marriage and the grandmother to her kids, the grandma with whom the kids resided in Eva. During the investigation, Adams informed the OSBI that on the evening of March 29th, her son and grandkids stayed somewhere else. She was going to pick them up the next morning before meeting up with Veronica. According to court filings, Adams called Veronica around 9 a.m. on March 30th to double-check their appointment. As told by Adams, Veronica informed her that she would not be able to be there as something came up. Call records verified that they did talk. Nevertheless, Veronica was on her way to pick up Jillian, at the time actually. Veronica's 2 kids were under the legal custody of Wrangler Rickman, their father, but were in a rehabilitation center then. This is why the kids had been staying at Adams when the incident transpired. The alleged motive in the case appeared to be related to the ongoing custody dispute over Veronica's kids, which started in February 2019. The protracted legal dispute featured consistent court appearances and critical hearings, emphasizing the seriousness of the stakes for all those involved. 10 days prior to her disappearance, Veronica requested additional visitations and complete custody. On April 17th, a court hearing was scheduled, with the possibility of granting Veronica unsupervised visitation rights. OSBI questioned the woman who usually oversees the visits, and she claimed she was present that day, but Adams advised her to take a few weeks off from supervision. Adams wanted to ask her grandkids about Veronica's permitted visitation supervisors. Even though her son was granted legal custody, Tiffany Adams oftentimes would decline to hand him over to the kids. The fact that authorities were also brought in to help with custody problems suggested an unstable family dynamic. Adams and her boyfriend Tad Cullum, who was also among the 4 individuals detained, were also recorded making threats against Wrangler. In February 2024, Wrangler's grandma stated that he informed her they wouldn't have to be concerned about the custody battle for much longer cause Adams got it under control. Adams was familiar with the judge's route to work and will ambush Veronica at the drop-off. Wrangler happened to be at a rehab center in Oklahoma City when the incident unfolded. Following the acquisition of a search warrant for Adams' phone on April 1st, OSBI officers found searches of prepaid phones, firearm stores, tasers, and methods for luring someone out of their house. A search of the nearby firearm stores revealed that Adams had bought 5 stun guns on March 23rd, along with 3 prepaid mobile phones from Walmart. The mobile phones were tracked to those crucial locations in the investigation, in particular, where Veronica's vehicle was discovered and where they were last seen. On March 30th, from 10:16 to 10:35 a.m., 2 of these phones were traced to a secluded pasture, with fresh indications of disturbance of the soil. A buried hole filled in hay was discovered around 8.5 miles from Veronica and Jillian's last reported location, within a time frame corresponding with the women's disappearances. All of the suspects were affiliated with God's Misfits, an anti-government group that used to gather on a regular basis at the Twombly's residence. On March 30th, their 16-year-old daughter realized that Cora and Cole Twombly weren't at home, though they came back around midday. They reportedly took a blue and gray Chevrolet pickup truck. After they returned, they instructed their teenage daughter to tidy up the pickup from inside. She additionally told the detectives that her mother and father acknowledged blocking the road so they could stop Veronica and Jillian. They then led them to the spot where Adams, Cullum, and Grice were waiting. When asked why Jillian had to be killed too, Cora excused it by asserting she wasn't innocent since she backed Veronica. When questioned if the remains were concealed beneath a well, Cora oddly responded, "Something like that." Their daughter additionally addressed their previous attempts to kill Veronica Butler within Hugoton in February 2024. These attempts included a scheme for luring Veronica Butler outside, which coincided with the internet search seen on Adam's phone. Cora also revealed a plan for faking an accident by dropping an anvil over Butler's windshield. These kinds of occurrences were prevalent while driving past loaded vehicles. Prosecutors contended that there had been multiple tries at taking Veronica's life. Further court filings described the years of conflict between Veronica and Adams. Court approval was not obtained for requests for a protective order. KSN talked to Veronica's father, Clinton Butler. When asked if he believed the legal system had failed his daughter, he replied, "A 100%. On April 28th and May 3rd, respectively, Jillian and Veronica were honored with a celebration of life service. On May 1st, 2024, 31-year-old Grice appeared in court for the first time in Texas County, Oklahoma. It is not known why Grice wasn't arrested along with the others. He was arrested 9 days later. He confessed about his involvement in the planning, execution, and burial of Veronica and Jillian. At the court hearing, he was refused bail. The ruling was based on 3 points, as per the motion. Evidence of guilt is obvious. Crime involving acts of violence are alleged to have been committed, and he will receive a maximum punishment of life in prison or life without parole. He will be represented by a public defender, given that he cannot afford to pay one himself. Adams's affidavit states that she also gave authorities a recorded statement, which implied her of being the responsible for the killings. Veronica and Jillian were more than just victims of a perplexing case. They were people with families and friends. They had ambitions. This case serves as a stark reminder of the awful impacts that criminal activities have, impacts that extend far beyond the confines of newspapers and courtrooms, impacts on victims and their loved ones. The waiting for the trial's verdict can be excruciating and full of ambiguity for the victims' families as well as the general public. They had to cope with the gradual pacing of court proceedings as the trial progressed. Oftentimes it seems frustratingly slow in comparison with the immediate impacts and emotional turmoil resulting from the crime. Justice for Veronica Butler and Jillian Kelly is something that everyone expects will be achieved. In Kansas, there is an initiative to ensure that Jillian and Veronica's names don't get forgotten. Hamlin and Beth Beard are the joint owners of Main Revelation, a small startup in Hugoton that sells T-shirts. The objective of this is to support Veronica and Jillian's families. Jillian's favorite Bible verse is printed on the back of the T-shirts. All proceeds will be donated to the victims' families. Grice and the other 4 individuals, who have been detained and charged in relation to this case, were scheduled to reappear in the courtroom on May 15th. When the day arrived, all 5 of them showed up for an update hearing. The motion to seal the search warrants was turned down by the judge. A motion to withhold the whole medical examiner's report for 6 months was also granted by the judge. The summary report will be made accessible upon completion. A gag order was also granted by the judge in this case due to widespread local and national media attention. The following court date is June 19th for a discovery status hearing.
If you find this video compelling, show your support by giving it a thumbs up, subscribing to our channel, and ringing that notification bell. By doing so, you'll stay updated about the latest investigations and mysteries. Your support means the world to us as we continue to pursue the truth in the world of cold cases.